Welcome to Soundtrack Your Life, a podcast about soundtracks, music, and movies. Each episode features a guest and focuses on a specific soundtrack and the personal stories connected to it. Now here's your host, Ryan Pack.
So I'm Ryan Pack, and this is Soundtrack Your Life. I'd like to thank you for listening today, wherever you are. Today, Bob Akbar, also known as Bob Rogue, is our guest. He is the composer for the web series DarkTyme, which is directed by Dan Buck, and he is also the business manager of Black Corporation. Welcome, Bob.
Hi there. Greetings from Tokyo.
So, Bob, Dan was telling me that you are doing something kind of unique with DarkTyme, with the music that you have to create. It sounds like you have to create different themes for every character in the series.
Yeah, there's like 46 total characters. And so, well, I've been a little looser on the deadlines recently, but it's been basically about every 2 weeks I send over, like a 2-minute piece of music that I try to make fit the description of how he explains each character, which basically is he'll say, this is Rhino Woman, she's a good guy character, or Mushroom Man, who's a bad guy character. And, I just have to come up with an idea from that. So I usually go in, sometimes I'll take an old recording and send something that would fit to that. But other times it would just be, I would just kind of play around with the melody until I get something right, and then lay it out, add a few other elements, and then play with the sounds to make it like move around in space. I mean, it's a podcast series, so it's not, most people are going to be listening to it on their iPhones and, laptop speakers. So I guess the focus isn't really on the sound quality of the recordings, but I like to throw in little sonic Easter eggs in there. So if you do listen to them on like a nice sound system, you're like, oh, well, that was kind of interesting. But yeah,
very cool.
It's been an interesting project, yeah, for sure. And it's a nice opportunity to work with. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but Dan is a friend of mine from high school. We ran against each other for class president when we were freshmen, and we've been friends ever since. We both lost.
Oh, wow. That's not a common friend origin story.
And he reminded me, he came over to Tokyo to visit me early on when I moved here. And he reminded me of the story of when I first met him, because we met at when we were on stage getting ready to give our speeches, and someone introduced us, and we were like shaking our hands and doing the old power move of the strong handshake, and crushing each other's hand, and it was a friendship ever since.
That's awesome. So today we are going to talk about the 1978 Alan Parker film Midnight Express.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison?
And I want to say this is the first time we're talking about a score on this podcast that actually won the Academy Award for Best Score.
Yeah. There was some there was some German television appearance where Giorgio Moroder, appeared to have performed this live on one synthesizer with all the music playing. This was before everyone kind of understood that there was probably a recording going on in the background, and he was just playing, the main line. But it's kind of funny. When he comes on stage, you see him buttoning his jacket, it's was he naked backstage? But it's just kind of funny to see it. I think if you YouTube Giorgio Moroder Chase live, you might be able to find it. Let me see if I can find that and tell you exactly what the. Oh no! Oh yeah, Okay, I'll send you the link. Maybe you add it later.
Okay.
There you go. I,
Yeah,
I
I'll check
think
that out for sure.
yeah. Okay, there he is. He's on a mini Moog. And yeah, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because, recently, he's, as you said before when we were chatting before we got on, he has been popping up a lot in the mainstream because of the stuff that he did with Daft Punk. And he's, I guess, kind of making a little comeback, I guess, as like his swan song of performances, because he's not so young.
Right.
Um, and he's been coming out. I missed him DJing in Tokyo, but I've seen a lot of performances on online, and I just saw that there's a performance, a live performance with actual singers to sing the songs that he did for Donna Summer and Blondie and all those cats. So it's just kind of cool to see these performances now. And so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they didn't really know who he was until 2013, where he basically gets to tell his story on that Daft Punk album.
right,
And then when you start like going back to like who is this guy? Like he's more than just the Donna Summer guy. And this
yeah,
being a soundtrack podcast, it's crazy how much like amazing work he's done just on the in the soundtrack world.
right. Well, Midnight Express. I mean, I didn't even realize he did Scarface, and I didn't realize he did Scarface until I played Grand Theft Auto, and they have the one, the Scarface theme of it, and you see in the
Hmm.
credits, oh, by Giorgio Moroder. It's like what?
Right.
But
Yeah, and
when you know his name's on it, you're not surprised. But it's like, how did I not know about this?
right. It's like, why doesn't everybody know this guy's name? It's kind of like Nile Rodgers, who's also on that Daft Punk album. It's like, wait, he worked with Bowie. Wait, he
Mhm.
worked with like all those great funk songs. Like that's his guitar on all of those songs.
But
And then those,
with Rogers though, I kind of feel like, oh no, I take back what I was about to say. I was about to say what I should have said if the topic was Quincy Jones, who, like, our parents all knew who he was, but I think Nile Rodgers is a bit more underground. So I was just
right. But it's kind of crazy. Like he made these funk classics, and then those funk classics got sampled into hip hop songs. So it's like generations upon
Mhm.
generations, like are all listening to his music without knowing that it's his music.
Right, right. I'm surprised a lot more hip hop hasn't sampled Giorgio Moroder, or have they? And I just don't listen to enough hip hop.
Not a lot of mainstream hip hop. I think Jay Dilla sampled him, which makes sense because Jay Dilla knows to sample everything.
Right? Yeah, true.
I mean, I think they will now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like hip hop recently has gotten a bit more electronic.
Yeah,
So
for
rather than
sure.
funk records, they are using a lot more synthesizers, and yeah, the production quality has gotten really sharp.
Yeah, the hip hop live show has evolved a lot since like the mid 90s to where we are now.
Do they even bring DJs on stage anymore?
Like they'll still have the DJ, but it's usually like with, a DJ enhanced by like a live band.
Right, right.
Like it used to be just a DJ and then a rapper and then like 10 of his friends.
Yeah, and it's hype dudes.
Yeah, not all of them had mics, but they were all on stage.
Yeah.
But it was funny. I was at the bank today, of all places, and
Mhm.
Berlin's "Take My Breath Away" came on, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is Giorgio Moroder too."
Yeah, yeah. He's everywhere. It's kind of yeah, it's kind of hard to realize like how how we've been missing him all this time. But
Yeah.
the chase. I mean, so I think the first Martyr track I heard was "Donna Summer." I Feel Love. I was like 2 years old and knew this was something I was into. It was on one of those cassettes that my parents had bought while traveling through Europe, and it would come up in on the home stereo, and I just always would lose my mind to it, and as a 2 or 3 year old, and then of course, listening to Blondie and more of Donna Summer, and then it wasn't until the in New Jersey when I was in middle school. This was like around the '80s, mid '80s. There was a station called Hot 103, which became Hot 97, which you might have heard mentioned in some hip hop songs. But before it was a hip hop station, it was like kind of a pop and dance kind of thing. It was like the alternative to what would be playing Def Leppard and Quiet Riot. It was more kind of dancey kind of stuff. Um, so every Saturday night there would be the Saturday night dance party, and it would just be Italo disco. There was the Puerto Rican version of it, freestyle. It had a lot of Puerto Rican artists doing something similar to what the Italians were doing, just with a more Latin kind of beat to it, which was cool. And sometimes you would hear Depeche Mode and stuff. I'd be into Depeche Mode. And then one night I'd start off with a New Order mega mix. And right after Blue Monday, this weird, spacey, dancey disco track comes in, and it turns out to be The Chase from this movie. We didn't have Shazam back then, so I couldn't find, what this track was. And so this was 87 when I first heard this, and I recorded it. I had it on tape, so I'd be able to listen to it every now and then, and could never track down what it was until one day I was at university. I went to College Park, University of Maryland, and out of the stadium, I'm hearing the song playing on the whole system. I'm like, what is going on? And it was like they were just testing the sound system. And I ran out of my dorm, ran to the stadium, climbed up to the booth where the guy was playing. I was like, what is this song? And he's like, it's The Chase. I'm like, thank you. And from then on, I knew it was The Chase and tracked it down and bought the record. That's how my relationship with the soundtrack kind of emerged.
So, when did you first see the movie?
Oh, wow. So I first saw the movie, I was already in Japan. So probably the late 2000s. And yeah, I just watched it because, the whole theme, I had the record already, and I was like, okay, I might as well watch the movie. People say it's great. And with no expectations. I didn't know it was about a guy getting arrested for hash and being put in a Turkish prison, thus the airplane reference. And yeah, it was, it was a pretty awesome movie. So and the entire soundtrack. I used to only play The Chase off of the record, but now I listen to the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah, and Giorgio Moroder did all the score for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lean like 37 minutes of music.
Yeah, it's very short. Where is? Yeah, does it say who does the vocals on the last song?
It says Chris Bennett.
Chris Bennett. Yeah, she's got a really like kind of angelic voice, and it's just a cool way to end the album with the vocal version of that. I've actually played that in when I was DJing at an after hours club, just because it was just the right mood for it. I just decided to drop in the vocal Midnight Express theme.
Was that at After Hours Club in Tokyo?
Yeah.
And how was that received?
Well, if you're in after hours in Tokyo, you're pretty open-minded at that point.
That's fair.
But yeah, it wouldn't be appropriate for everyone, but I think at the moment it worked.
I would like to hear that at a club, but I don't think they really have after hours clubs out here.
Yeah,
At least not
yeah.
legal ones.
It feels like everything closes at like what 2 at the latest in LA or
Yeah.
anywhere in America. How do you, what do you guys do after that?
Fly to New York.
Fly to New York, go home and watch movies and talk. Yeah, I'm still, I try to go home about once a year, and every year I get more and more culture shocked. I'm like, what? You can't just walk across the street and grab a beer at a 7-Eleven? What?
Oh yeah, and then New York has weird laws about like where you can buy beer and if it's above a certain percentage, then you have to go to a liquor store versus the grocery store. And I was like, who's writing these laws?
Yeah, that's obnoxious. And so now my parents live in Ithaca, so and New York, I guess recreational weed is kosher, like in California,
Hmm.
and yeah, everything smells like weed there. Even like so, my last trip was I went into Ithaca and then spent a few days in L.A. and then I was flying out of L.A. Lax on my way home. I walked in the airport. It smelled like weed. I was like, You're not that, huh? That's a thing."
Well, what else are you going to do in Ithaca?
That's true. Well, there's a lot of nature. You can walk around after after smoking weed.
Yeah, perfect for smoking weed.
No, but yeah, it's a nice natural area. A bit colder than um, w- my comfort zone, but it's still okay. A lot of deer running around. Um, there were a couple of nights where I would go out with a couple of friends and walk back to my parents' house where I'm staying, and just come like face to face with the deer just standing there, like, "Hey, want some weed?" Yeah, didn't get that from the deer, but that would have been funny.
Smoke
Um,
some weed and go journal.
yeah, there you go. Everything closing and just not having any options. It would be like, okay, so this restaurant's closed. Okay, this bar is closed. I'd ask the bartender, what do you do now? He's like, I don't know. Can't stay here. Semisonic reference.
Yep, that's
But
right.
then you get to a point, here it's like, okay, this place is closed. Okay, where do we go next? Okay, let's go there. And then, just until you can't finish sentences anymore, and then you go home.
And it's still a super clean subway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I remember just riding down the subway with my wife, and she's like, "How do they keep this place so clean all the time?"
A lot of staff. Yeah. They keep a lot of people employed here. Did you ever walk past any construction sites?
We must have, because we were by the fish market. I know they were doing a bunch of stuff over there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. They were building the new fish market. So, like, when you walk past a construction site, there will be like 4 or 5 people just telling you, "Oh, look out for this cone. Don't step in that hole over there." Just to guide you around. Something that, like, could just take one person to do, but they'll have 4. Um, that's how they keep things clean and orderly.
Well, at least as a tourist, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, people are generally, I mean, at least Japanese people. I wouldn't say all the tourists that come. I wouldn't say our fellow countrymen are always the most um, full of etiquette when it comes to um, handling their trash. But you don't. As you probably noticed, there weren't many trash cans or anywhere to throw away your garbage. Um, People just keep it until they find a place. They don't just toss it and forget about it. So
Right.
just having a respect for the area, having some pride in where you live, it's kind of nice.
It is kind of nice.
And also, like you'll see, like in the neighborhood, people in front of their houses, they have all their plants and little you know knickknacks, just little bits of decoration that, like, if this was in New York, it would get stolen in a day.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, there is some niceness that comes with all of that.
Yeah, for sure. And you can also get really good udon or soba from a vending machine.
Exactly. Yes. You can also get raw horse meat from a vending machine.
That I did not see.
Yeah. So for the first time, uh, every New Year's we go over to my wife's parents' house, and on the way there, there was this new frozen horse meat vending machine, Basashi. I'll send you a picture when we're done with this conversation.
I will have to look out for that the next time I'm in Japan.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that must have been. I mean, people talk about all the weirder stuff that you'd find in vending machines here. I haven't really seen and anything too weird except for the horse meat, and you can get beer at a vending machine, which is nice. But those are disappearing.
I'm only imagining how problematic that would be if they had beer vending machines here.
Right? They'd always be empty.
Or like tipped over.
With a guy sleeping inside.
Pretty much.
Barney from The Simpsons sleeping inside. Hey!
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of a beer vending machine. Like at the mall, like an outdoor mall. Be so great.
Yeah.
But I also know we can't have nice things here.
No. That's basically it.
Before we continue with our episode, Brandis is here to tell you about Newsly.
So since I'm the ad person, naturally Ryan was like, I need to do the ad. So here I am to do an ad about Newsly. If you don't want to read the news, but you want to have the news read to you in a very natural speaking voice, great speaking voice, much better than my speaking voice, then you need to try out Newsly. You can learn about all your favorite topics, sports, tech, business, science, Bitcoin, even the Kardashians, and you can hear all of your favorite trending podcasts from over 80 countries, including, of course, your number one top absolute favorite podcast, Soundtrack Your Life. We're there too. So download Newsly for free at newsly.me, that's newsly.me, or check out the link in our description and use our promo code SNDcast for a 1 month free premium subscription. So you can listen to us for free, all over and over, and only listen to us because we're the best podcast on there. Just saying.
Since COVID has been a thing and like traveling has been kind of restricted, they're finally starting to let tourists back in. They're starting to let people come in, to perform. So I've seen a few DJs and live acts come from overseas, and that's been nice because all I've been seeing is everyone local for the past 2 years. And so
Right.
as soon as tourism opens up, I'm not looking forward to. I haven't seen a selfie stick in 2 years. That's just wonderful. So I'm not looking forward to those coming back in, but I am looking forward to a little more variety in people coming over.
Sure.
Sometimes I feel like I stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's certain parts that have of Tokyo that have a lot of expats, but I assume when you've been living there for as long as you have, you're not hanging out in those parts of town all the time.
Yeah, like I don't usually go out to Roppongi. I still have a good base of expat friends here, and that's I hang out with. There's a spider on my ceiling. Nice. So there's still a good amount of us here, but it's not as much as normal times. Dark
Right.
Time.
Speaking of,
Yeah. So a way to sneak in a shameless plug there for the podcast. Yeah. I did prepare before we got on with some other interesting records that I had while I was looking for the Midnight Express cover. One was um, in that mix that I heard the Chase dropped into after the New Order. Uh, I only remember this because I had it on the cassette that I recorded on. It was followed by this song, which is a house song by a group called Rays. It's backwards on the thing, isn't it?
no, I
Break
can
for
see
Love.
it.
So for some reason, if I am DJing somewhere and if I do play Midnight Express, I'll always mix this track into it. It just goes in perfectly. So it was funny because I found both records together because that's how I like to keep them. Did you know that Giorgio actually put out some solo albums as himself?
Yes,
From Here to Eternity. Look at that mustache.
that is a strong Italian mustache.
That is a strong Italian mustache. He looks like he plays second base.
Yeah, he looks like he plays on the Mets, right?
in 1986.
Right, the Keith Hernandez era.
Have you seen the spoof? It's like somebody pretending to be Giorgio Moroder, someone pretending to be Vangelis, and someone is um, Wendy Carlos.
No.
Oh, this is another one of the greatest videos of all time. It's like the synth lords of the synth. Yeah, live at the Necropolis, Lords of the Synth. This is mandatory viewing as soon as we're done with this conversation. I'll send you the link over right now.
I look forward to it.
Yes, and
Vangelis just passed away, right?
yeah, like 3 weeks ago, and that
Yep.
was a bit rough. Kind of our company, Black Corporation, is has a lot to do with inspiration from Vangelis. Well, I don't even know if it's pronounced Vangelis or Vangelis, but I say Vangelis. But he did the Blade Runner soundtrack, the original one, and our first product was kind of inspired by the synthesizer that he used for that soundtrack, and so we called it Deckard's Dream. That's
Very cool.
what the connection is, and it's kind of like our big, it's kind of our flagship. And yeah, so anytime like a big synth pioneer dies, that's kind of rough. We're also big fans of Depeche Mode, and Andy Fletcher died like a week after Vangelis.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been one thing after another. And then Julie Cruz was last week, but I mean, I wasn't a super huge fan, but you see everyone in the music community like, oh, this person died this week, this person. So hey, famous musicians, stop dying on us.
And I think you are correct. I think it is Vangelis.
Is it Vangelis? All right, I'll probably say Vangelis and Vangelis interchangeably.
Learn something new.
Yeah. I think the character's name in Lords of the Synth is Zangelis with an X instead of Definitely worth watching.
So as far as Giorgio's other soundtrack work, did you gravitate to any, did you gravitate to Flashdance or to Top Gun? I mean, Top Gun was everywhere.
Flashdance, what a feeling. Now that, okay, so when you listen to any of Giorgio's tracks, they're fun, they're like well written, they're nice melodies and everything. But one thing I've started to do recently is just focus on his use of the studio to make those tracks. And one thing like I Feel Love, for example, like one thing that you probably never think of when you listen to it, but every vocal lick that Donna Summer does, you hear just a reverb just start from a dry signal and just come into a reverb and go into space. And then, the next time you listen to the song, you'll notice this and be like, wow, that's really cool. It's these little details that he'd put into the studio. And one day, for some reason, I bought just What a Feeling in Apple Music a million years ago. So anytime I had an iPhone with no music on it, that, before they destroyed iTunes, and I had no music on the phone, I would always be able to pull that up. And one night I was walking home from the office and I was like, okay, let's listen to What a Feeling. And that was like another example of like, God damn, he was really good in the studio. So yeah, I would recommend anyone who with any interest in Giorgio Moroder, if you like his music, like put on a pair of great headphones or some nice speakers and just listen for the details of what he would do in the studio, because that's like next level. So yeah, Flashdance, I totally forgot about that being one of his soundtracks, and that's what that reminded me of. Let's see, Giorgio Moroder soundtracks. What else am I forgetting?
Never-Ending Story, American Gigolo.
Jesus, yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, there was one thing that Giorgio did recently that I thought just was tacky, but the song 74 is the new 24. Have you heard this? Obviously, he wrote it when he was 74, and I don't want to be ageist or anything, but like, come on, dude. The world did not need that song.
Well, when he's been bulletproof for so long, sometimes you kind of forget that you're mortal.
Right. For a while, do you know who Jeff Mills is?
I don't think
Jeff
so.
Mills. He's one of the original Detroit techno guys. Now he's he's from Chicago, I think. But he's like one of the top guys making techno, and he also does some soundtracking stuff. He likes to use like Buster Keaton movies and re-soundtrack those. He recently did The Planets, which was amazing because he performed it with the Tokyo Symphony Orchestra, and that was really, really amazing. So I kind of felt like he was kind of following in Giorgio Moroder's footsteps a little bit. Just like kind of what was the other movie? I feel like Giorgio Moroder soundtracked a Buster Keaton movie. Metropolis. Was that Buster Keaton?
That wasn't Buster Keaton, but yeah, he did do like a re-scoring of Metropolis.
Yeah, so that's why I thought Jeff Mills was going in a similar way, because he also did Metropolis. And then I was kind of excited because did you know that Giorgio Moroder was collaborating to make it might have been a Lamborghini. Oh yeah, the Cizeta V16T. With I don't know what his part in the collaboration was, but he was involved in developing a car. And so I was hoping like Jeff Mills would come up with an electric vehicle version of something like this. But yeah, that another weird thing. Once you get that Grammy Award soundtrack money, you can get into new projects like making Ferrari rides.
Yeah, because what else is he gonna do?
Yeah. I've already bought every synth. Now let's move on.
I was like, it still blows my mind that he wrote both Danger Zone and Take My Breath Away. Like they're so different.
I just read that Val Kilmer, his voice in the movie was synthesized because he can't speak anymore.
Oh, and the new one? Yeah, I think he's got some sort of
Yeah,
like
he has throat cancer, but yeah, I didn't
yeah.
know that. I haven't seen the movie yet, so no spoilers.
I haven't seen it either, so I can't spoil anything.
But
I just know that it's a Lady Gaga song and not Giorgio Moroder, I don't think.
well, I, I'm surprised that they didn't collaborate. Lady Gaga's cool with electronic musicians.
Yeah, let me double check.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's a Moroder song. Though it does look like they did bring Danger Zone back.
Apparently, that's how they start the movie off.
I mean, that sounds like the right way to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, of course. There's one interesting thing that I learned about I Feel Love when Giorgio made that. He borrowed a Moog, I think it's um, a Moog modular system, which was being used to do the music for a Black and Decker commercial. And I don't know if he was joking, but a friend of mine, also in the synth world, was telling me about the history of this. And the reason that that bass line kind of sounded like that was because the synth was preset to make it sound like it was saying Black and Decker. Black and
Oh.
Decker, Black and Decker. I don't know if he was joking, but it could be true. I like to believe it's true.
Yeah, why would he make something up as ridiculous as that?
So another thing to think about the next time you go back to listen to Moroder's music.
I just remember reading that like it took a lot of begging to get someone to sing Danger Zone because Top Gun was such a controversial movie because it was such a pro-military sort of propaganda film to a lot of critics that
Mm-hmm.
like he had to go down like a list of vocalists before he landed Kenny Loggins, who owns the 80s as far as soundtrack songs go. Like I think Bryan Adams turned it down and Moroder had to be like, "Give me the Footloose guy."
Give me the Footloose guy. It was also the guy from the Eagles. Um,
Oh, Henley.
yeah, which I didn't know. It was the guy from the Eagles until I actually went to see the Eagles in concert. Fortunately, the ticket was bought for me because I would have wanted my money back. It sounded like the whole show, start to finish, was like hitting play on the CD. Note for note, it was identical to everything in their recordings. It's kind of
Oh.
disappointing. Don't you hate that? You want to hear a bit
No,
of liveness. I want to hear mistakes.
or at least
You know,
change up a solo here and there so you know it's
yeah.
not the same thing.
And to add insult to injury, opening track, guess.
Hotel California.
Yeah. When I mean that would be like the closer, the 30-minute version with little solos, but nope. It's like the radio edit version of Hotel California is the first track. Okay, we get it. You're the Eagles.
Wow.
I don't know
That
why I
just
went
makes
off.
me sad.
It was really sad. It was really disappointing. But I guess some people actually do just like to hear exactly like how it was released on the album.
Not
Not me.
me.
I prefer going to New Order shows where they don't even know what octave to sing on. That was my first concert was New Order, Sugar Cubes, and Public Image Limited, and I'll never forget like how messed up New Order was in a good way. I loved it.
And what a lineup.
Yeah.
Now if you told someone that they'd be like, "What festival was that?"
Yeah, exactly. No, it was just that concert. Yeah, everything has gone to festivals now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Another yeah, another reason to come to Japan is festivals.
Yeah?
The way festivals are managed here, and the locations are just amazing.
Yeah, one of the regrets we had was we didn't get to see a show. We wanted to go to a concert while we were in Tokyo. I think it was just like, I don't know if it was the novelty of seeing like just a bunch of Japanese people like lose their shit to like some, like okay indie band from the United States, or we just wanted that experience.
Well, so going to a show in Japan is a bit weird. You'll get a variety of reactions from the audience. The first show I went to was Kraftwerk. This was around 2005 or 2006, and my friend and I were like going nuts. All right, pocket calculator, yeah, and we would talk in between songs, and some guy in front of us turned to look at us and goes, "Shh." And now I'm that guy because like I'll be like at a show wanting to listen to music and some tourists are talking, so I get it now. But this was like a pretty subdued audience. And then I went the Franz Ferdinand. They came through town and they stopped by the office because they wanted to check one of our synths. And they're like, "Hey, you want to come to the show?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And we went to that show, and that was like all lively, and people were pretty pumped about it. And then I went to see a krautrock show. Michael Rother, who was in Can and Harmonium and Noi. Again, I was thinking this would be a pretty rowdy crowd, but again, between songs, people were just like not reacting. You get a variety, so it's hit or miss, I'd say.
Yeah, I think we left a few days before I think Jimmy Eat World was playing in Tokyo, and we
Oh,
thought
wow.
that would have been a fun experience.
Mm.
And I think we were one night from like the Police.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I wonder how that would have been.
Yeah, I'd imagine that would have been pretty lively. I wonder if I know anyone who went to that.
It's funny because sometimes like a band will reunite and they'll play out here in LA, and there's always like that one Japanese girl who travels like across the world, and like they don't know anybody at the show and they're in the front row, and you're just like, how did you navigate your way to get here?
That's funny because we have a bar here. It's a rock music listening bar, where the owner, our friend Lynn, she just went to a show in LA that was like it was like Morrissey, Blondie, Berlin. Wait, maybe
The festival, right? The Just
yeah.
Like Heaven festival, I think.
She just went to that. So when you're like, yeah, there's just like one Japanese girl who makes their way around the world. Yeah, that was Lynn.
Okay, next time I see her, I'll just be, you must be Lynn. You must be Lynn.
Yeah, there we go.
Because I remember seeing a couple at like Blur and like at a Radiohead show and at a Replacements show, I think. And it's always and they always like travel alone. It's not like, oh, there's a group of us, where it'd be like, oh, okay, that's fun. It'd be like, I am worried about your safety being in this foreign country.
Yeah. I'm not. I just want to see Sting. Yeah. Or whoever that would be.
I mean, I would definitely want to see Sting not playing his world music and Sting playing Police songs.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Yeah, it's nice to see when when the bands reunite. But I heard at that Just Like Heaven tour, yeah, was it Blondie? Did Blondie play?
I can look that up real quick.
Okay. A friend of mine told me like it was like she was like struggling to sing, and I was like, they should have.
Debbie Harry.
Debbie Harry, yeah.
It doesn't look like we played this. It might have been a different thing.
Okay, or it might have been Berlin.
It's not Just Like Heaven. That was more of an indie fest. But I know what you're talking about.
Okay. I think like Morrissey would have been closing, but I'm not a huge fan of Morrissey, so I would have bounced.
This would be the Cruel World Festival.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, the Crew World Festival. It was a
Too
pretty
many,
exciting.
too many festivals.
Yeah. Well, now that we're out of COVID, hopefully out of COVID, but we are seemingly out of it, and hopefully not going into monkeypox lockdowns.
So I know you mentioned that they reference the movie in Airplane. I
Jimmy,
didn't realize that they also reference it in Cable Guy. Like, there's a scene where Jim Carrey visits Matthew Broderick in jail, and he like lifts up his shirt and starts screaming
yeah,
Jimmy and bringing all that attention.
a similar scene also happens in Family Guy. I think Brian's in jail, and then there's another dog in the pound, and his wife's, because dogs have multiple nipples.
Right.
So that was, Family Guy humor of the same scene.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, not knowing what we're talking about, there is nudity in Midnight Express. Um, a parental warning.
I mean, it's a movie about smuggling drugs, so that should be parental warning enough, I guess.
Oh, sorry. There's awkward nudity, I should say. Yeah, that scene like I did do a quick review of the movie last night, and I was like, man, yeah, he must have been really lonely in there.
Yeah, because it's based off a true story.
Yeah, and then I was watching some interviews with him. He's like, trying to make a comeback, and he's like, yeah, I was a kid. I thought nothing bad would ever happen to me. I'm like, wow. Talk about the privilege there, but
Right.
nothing will ever happen to me. But yeah, that opening sequence is pretty intense. The way that it's shot and edited, and the music on there. So yeah, it's definitely a fun movie to watch, and the soundtrack really does bring it all together.
Yeah, I always knew the name of the movie, but I knew almost nothing about it until we kind of jumped into this. And then I was like, man, they reference this in a lot of things. Like, even pro wrestling always has a tag team called the Midnight Express.
And the theme
I don't
music,
even really watch wrestling.
the music when they came on was The Chase.
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably
So-
before they had to pay royalties for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oliver Stone wrote the screenplay, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that he did things other than his own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot involved in that. So I guess, he had a terrible time for, I guess, 6 years he was in prison, but must have made some money off of the books and the movie deal and all that. So in the end, everything worked out.
Well, he has criticized the film of being a little too
Over the top.
Turk-phobic. Yeah.
Turk-phobic. Yeah, that would make sense. Well, it was. I mean, from his interview, he was talking about it was just after the PLO bombing of a plane. So that's where security checks actually kind of first started. Before that, you just get on a plane oh hey. It was before we had to take our shoes off to get on a plane.
I remember in the 80s having to dress up nicely to get on a plane.
Yeah, and you could smoke on it. Well, I mean, we didn't smoke because it was the 80s and we were kids, but there was a smoking section that, I mean, in a plane, the whole plane is the smoking section, but now thinking back to that.
I remember before they just removed the smoking thing completely. I was like, who smokes on a plane?
Right.
I was like, why do they even need to have that?
In retrospect, it feels a little dangerous, doesn't it?
Now you can smoke. Now can you please put your cigarettes away? We're about to experience some turbulence.
Yeah. Right. And that reminds me of the scene in Airplane when he buys a ticket. Smoking or non-smoking? smoking, and the tickets are smoking.
Yeah.
That's a movie I've seen over 1,000 times. I can say with confidence I've seen it over 1,000 times.
I need to revisit it.
Airplane
I have to
is.
revisit that film. I have not seen it in a while.
It still gets funnier every time I watch it.
Not a lot of those sorts of movies anymore.
Yeah. I would like to see like a nice modern spoof that's not like a cheesy like American Pie kind of movie.
Oh, you didn't like Scary Movie or Not Another Teen Movie or whatever they called those things in the early 2000s?
They were okay, but they're not like at the classic level that Airplane, Naked Gun, um, what was the Top Gun one? Hot Shots.
Hot Shots.
Hot Shots. And it's funny because a friend of mine who was visiting the office, we were taking some pictures with him, and his name's Jim. And, he was doing like very serious pictures. So I tried to get him to smile, and I was like, Jimmy, do you like movies about gladiators? Just to get him to laugh and, referencing Airplane. And he told me about a movie called Putney Swope. This is another one that you can look up. You can watch the whole movie on YouTube. And apparently this was like I want to say 1968, but I feel like I'd be lying. But it's like one of the original spoof films. Well worth watching. Putney Swope. It was, I think it was directed by Morton Downey Sr. So yeah, there's some historical context for you there.
Wow.
Worth checking out.
Yeah, it blows my mind that Robert Downey Jr. used to be a cast member on SNL.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's Iron Man. Iron Man is dead, but he is alive.
Junior. Sorry.
Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. Robert Downey Sr., I believe, is gone.
Okay. And there was Morton Downey, which I imagine same family, but he had that show. I
don't think they're related.
Maybe I just think so because he was also like a Morton Downey Jr. kind of guy. I don't know why these Downeys like to have that suffix in their name. There's that tendency. They're just unoriginal with naming their kids.
I guess so.
Yeah, I could do it.
You got to think one copied the other, right? Like, oh, if you're doing that, well, I'm doing it too.
All in the same. You're gonna name it like the cousins, like Robert and Morton, or two brothers, and I'm gonna name my son after me. Well, I'm gonna name my son after me too.
Mine will be much more famous than yours. Well, thank you, Bob, for being on the podcast.
This was really fun.
Yeah, it was a great time. Thank you for doing all the math to make the California, Japan time translation work. Because you are a day ahead of me.
Yes, it's tomorrow already. You want tomorrow's winning lottery numbers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'll text them to you. I don't want you to share it with all of your listeners.
No, of course not. It should be a plot point in DarkTyme.
Right on. Oh, that's an idea. Well, there are still tons and tons of soundtracks that I do enjoy. So if I think of a cool one, I'll let you know. We could do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. And check out DarkTyme. Bob does the music for it. I think they do monthly episodes.
It's bi-weekly. I believe.
So they do episodes every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Bi-weekly can mean every 2 weeks or every... Oh, no, never mind. Bi-weekly can mean every 2 weeks or in the middle
Twice
of each...
a week.
Something like that, yeah. That's what it is.
I was talking to a British podcaster and he said, every fortnight. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, that's every 2 weeks. And I was like, oh.
And yeah, if you're liking a lot of the synth-heavy soundtracks that are going on in movies and TV shows right now, it's very likely that they could be one of our Black Corporation synthesizers on it. So that would be another fun little plug for myself and our team.
Yeah, very cool. That's amazing. I'm just like wading into the synthesizer waters. I have a vintage memory Moog in my house that I'm too afraid to break.
Oh, very nice. I'm very fortunate that I have our engineer is one of the world's top repairers of vintage analog gear. So I did just get this guy for a steal, and it was just because it wasn't making voices weren't working, but I gave it to him for a couple of hours, and I brought it home last night, and it's singing beautifully.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so glad we got to make this work. I definitely, if you are at NAMM, I will take you out.
For sure, that sounds awesome.
Cool. So have a good rest of your day as my day's wrapping up.
Yeah. Have a good night. What time is it there now? It's 9:30?
Yeah. 9:40.
Yeah.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today on Soundtrack Your Life.
This guy.
Make sure to visit our website, soundtrackyourlife.net, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And
while you're at it,
I have yet to steal our third and fourth
we'd
one.
appreciate a rating. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too.
Like being a kid in the candy store.
Yeah, and this is also half of my living room, so to my wife's dismay, I need to get that visa, my permanent resident visa, so we can move into a house, so she doesn't have to look at this every time she comes over.